podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer, coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, Shrubby Buddies, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am one of two hosts, Matthew C. Guthrie the first, and I'm joined with my best good buddy, Tim Fleischer. Tim, how are you today?
Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon.
I'm doing wonderful.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why are you acting silly over there?
No, I'm just trying something new.
What are you trying?
Just during this intro, just staring straight ahead instead of looking at you.
That's really weird.
I don't know, just seeing just like a little vibe check on myself.
Oh, okay. I'm adjusting my mic right now so I can see your beautiful face better.
Thank you.
Look my way, damn it. All right, thank you. All right, so here we are, week whatever of Shrubby Buddies podcast. Tim, what's new? What's been going on this past week for you, my friend?
Been busy at work, getting some things cut back that have been straggling. Working on that parking garage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, cutting back those vines.
Yeah. We've been to the nursery a couple times to pick up some plants, so that's fun. Plants are just rolling in. Spent a good afternoon in the greenhouse, potting up some plugs and up-potting some things that were root-bound and organizing things for airflow, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
greenhouse is looking good.
Yeah.
So I've been meaning to talk with you. I want to have a meeting with Nick Walters over at Dutch Mill about some greenhouse stuff. So we'll dive into that at some point. But As for me and my week, samesies, been busy. I haven't done a lot around the house, just kind of watching stuff wake up for the year. I'm anxious for that. Been busy at work with odds and ends, doing some weed control. Had to plant some grass seed yesterday for a pain in the butt resident. At the greenhouse this weekend, selling some stuff, planted a vegetable garden. At the greenhouse, we did Nick and I planted a cool season crop vegetable garden in one of the parking lot islands. So we did Swiss chard, beets, broccoli, a couple different types of cabbage, some kale, all of that stuff. Planted some sweet alyssum in through all of it as for just, to help with a little bit of the insect control on that. So, and spent a good deal of time propagating sweet potato vine, not the ornamental type sweet potato vine, but the stuff that you would
gumming up your pruners.
Gummed up the old Felco's pretty good, pruning back some roots and tops on those guys.
Yeah, you got them cleaned up nice though. They're nice and sharp and shiny.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been my week.
Speaking of vegetable plants, my peas are getting big and my radishes are getting big. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but the nebula carrots that you were excited about have not germinated yet. So I'm a little bit worried because Brenna planted those in another type of carrot and she said the other ones have germinated. So I'm a little bit worried. It would just stink because those were going to be fun to grow. But if it doesn't work out, I'll try them again next year.
That kind of bums me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used up all the seed too, so I don't have any I don't have any to try in the fall.
Yeah,
so we'll get some more.
We'll get there.
I want to give a shout out to my wonderful wife Megan. She went over to my daughter's elementary school this weekend and weeded for hours on end because we installed the new landscape last fall. Yeah. I've talked about it on here before. And, there was a lot coming up from years prior. We didn't remove a foot of topsoil and, replace it. So there's just a lot of weed seeds and old perennials starting to come back up. And she was really meticulous and it looks gorgeous. So
Yeah.
we'll have to keep up on it, but
she probably had those Bose headphones
she did.
on, listening to some Shrubby Buddies podcast.
Yeah.
I love it.
She did, and she's a very meticulous weeder, and I appreciate that about her because I am not.
Yeah.
So thanks, Meg.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I don't know why I'm thanking her, but thank you, Megan. Good job.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. So,
Round of applause.
Nope, wrong one. Megan.
Damn it! I thought I had those memorized. I guess I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I didn't hit it. Because which one is it?
We need to put some labels.
Cool. So that's been our week.
Yeah.
Little catch up there. Up next on the agenda is our weekly segment. This is the third week for it, so we'll dive into that. Stigma anther pollen style. What's a bloomin' crocodile? That little jingle just...
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's catchy. Gets me going.
Yeah, it does. So what's in bloom? 4:15 week. Well, today's 4:15. We're recording right now. This drops here in a little bit, but what are we seeing in bloom right now, buddy?
Yeah, so the last 2 weeks we had a lot of new things, and in an effort to try to not duplicate things, because there are a lot of things we talked about last week that are still blooming. These are just all new things we've noticed this week. Yeah. So it's a little bit smaller of a list. The only thing we've noticed in the landscape that's different from last week is the Korean spice viburnums, the fragrant viburnums. There's a few different cultivars out there, but those are starting to bloom. They smell wonderful. Mm-hmm. Nice little viburnum, not a native one, but then the rest of the things on this list are spring ephemerals that we've noticed as we've walked about some woodlands lately here at work and otherwise. Blue cohosh has been blooming. A picture was sent to us today by a coworker, Brenna. She spotted a whole bunch of it blooming, and neat little plant that starts out with blackish blue foliage and yellow flowers. So just real unique. Virginia bluebells, which I think a lot of people are probably familiar with, but just such a lovely blue, purple, pink, whites, kind of all in the same on the same plant. They're just fun little ephemeral, but ephemeral, they come and go. So go out and enjoy them while you can. Twin leaf, which is another spring ephemeral. Another one similar to twin leaf in the bloom is bloodroot. Spring beauties are blooming. Cut leaf toothwort is blooming, and Dutchman's breeches are blooming, which is a cousin to our like the landscape plant you would refer to as bleeding hearts.
Yeah.
So
white flowers. There's another one too there's Dutchman's
squirrel
breeches.
Corn.
Yeah, squirrel corn.
Yeah, I saw the breeches.
Very similar plants.
Looks like little white pairs of pants.
Easy to get those two confused. Yeah. So, but we have Dutchman's breeches where we're at. Don't see a lot of the squirrel corn, but if you go further south of us, you see more of it. So cool. So that's what's in bloom, folks, for this week, the week of 4/14, I guess.
That's what's blooming. Alligator.
In a while, crocodile. So yes, on to the topic. So this week we want to talk about subs for invasive species. Invasive species have been a hot topic, and here recently in the news in Central Ohio have been more of a hot topic because of the Franklin Soil and Water Conservation District have placed a bounty on invasive species. So what that means basically is the city of Columbus and a few of the kind of surrounding communities, New Albany, Ohio, Westerville, Ohio. I don't know who else is. I want to say that there's more than that. I can't remember. Maybe Grove City. I can't remember, but they are putting a bounty on invasive species. And I don't know all of the details, but it's something along the lines of, if you take a photo removing an invasive species, and there's a list of those species that they have on their website, if you have a photo or video proof of you removing it and planting it with a native on their approved list of native plants, they will reimburse you. I think most of them are $100. I want to say New Albany's at $150. So I don't know all of the details on it. I do know that they are making a push, though, for people to be removing these invasive species from their landscapes and getting better things in place of them. So,
and this is something we should be doing as collectively, regardless of a bounty,
correct,
and a payment, regardless if you live in one of these communities or not. But if you are interested in this and you live in one of the communities, it is worth your research because, like Matt said, we don't know all the details about it, about, taking pictures, and if there's so many people that are allowed to do it before the money runs out. So,
yeah.
But it has been a hot topic here in Central Ohio, and I've been asked about this a lot. So it just seemed natural to do a show about invasive species.
Yeah. So, Tim, when we talk invasive species, what is it exactly that we're talking about when we say invasive? So maybe give the listeners like your definition of invasive species, and then we'll kind of roll into this. So we're at least giving them an idea of what it is that we're talking about.
So an invasive species is going to be a non-native. That said, not all non-natives are invasive. I want to say that, and I want to say that one more time. Not all non-natives are invasive.
Yeah.
But to be defined as invasive, it's a plant that's escaping from gardens and it's getting into our natural areas, whether that be a prairie, whether that be a riparian zone along a creek, whether that be a woodland, and it's being successful in those natural areas and thus displacing the native flora.
Yeah.
And it's more than just an eyesore. Native flora that's important to wildlife for food and reproduction is being replaced by things that serve no purpose for the wildlife, and they're super aggressive in those situations. So it's bad news, and we have a lot of things, and the only way we're truly going to stop it is if we quit planting invasives in our gardens.
Yes, and removing the invasives that we currently have planted in our gardens. So, there's a lot of people like when we're dealing with this with residents in the city of Dublin, we're going to go in and we're going to remove invasive species, and we always get it provides a screen for me and this and that, and I don't, at the end of the day, I really don't care. Like, I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I don't care about your screen because the bad that these things create, like, it's just crazy. It's almost irreversible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we're ever going to eradicate some of these invasives that we talk about. Yeah. Some that we're not going to talk about, like the bush honeysuckle. We're not going to eradicate this stuff, but
yeah, if it's ludicrous to say something like, "Oh, that honeysuckle growing on the back of my property, then I don't have to see my neighbors." It's ludicrous to think that's you not seeing your neighbors is more important than that honeysuckle being removed. And I think we are here today to talk about things that those invasives could potentially be replaced with.
Yeah.
Some natives, some non-natives, but things that you can replace them with that aren't going to be so detrimental to our environment.
Yeah, and I will argue on most of this stuff. Most of the invasives that people are planting in their landscape are not as pretty as a lot of these alternatives that we're going to talk about here. So
yeah, and I want to clarify too, invasive versus aggressive, because something that spreads around your garden, that's considered aggressive. It's when it escapes into the natural areas that we're going to title it invasive.
Yeah.
So that's not the same thing. The other thing to keep in mind in here is just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not invasive. Burning bush is a really great example of people who have it are just like in denial that it's invasive, and they're like, well, I don't see it coming up everywhere around my property. Well, we're not talking about your property. We're talking about the adjacent woodlands where it's gotten into. And I'll tell you, Matt, the listeners might not know what I'm talking about here, but we have a nature preserve in Dublin called Hutchins, and it's covered. Whole section is just covered in burning bush.
Yeah.
But I found it for the first time growing down by the big waterfall.
Oh, really?
Right out of the cliff. And I yanked it out. It was just one little piece. But There's going to be more. And I mean, it's really moving through there. So
yeah, that's scary.
Just because that's not coming up in your garden doesn't mean it's not coming up in these natural areas. And where it is really thick, there's nothing good growing around it. It's just completely choking everything out. So.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic, kind of going over, you mentioned burning bush, which is one that a lot of people plant for the fiery red fall color, the vigor, all of that good stuff. Excuse me. But there's others too that people plant, barberry being one of them. That's used constantly ornamentally in the landscape. Let's see here. What are some other ones?
Calorie pear.
Yeah, calorie pear is a big one. And right now, it's the white flowers. You drive along the highway and you see these fields of just white flowering trees. That's calorie pear. Yep. And
those aren't supposed to be there.
And that just shows you how aggressive, how invasive these things are. It seems like if you cut it down, it just suckers 1,000 more trees off of the roots and everything else, and it just becomes a problem. That's why it's important that when you're removing these things, cutting them, treating them with some sort of an herbicide.
It all depends on the invasive. Smaller honeysuckles you can just pull right out. Yeah. They've got a very shallow root system, but you're not going to pull out a mature calorie pear tree. So, everything's going to have to be treated a little bit differently.
Yeah. Another one's privet. Privet's that's a shrub that a lot of people use as like screening or for like a hedge.
Also, it's a frog's favorite shrub.
Privet. Yeah, there's a Tim joke for you. Some of the ground covers and some of the vining plants like English ivy, winter creeper, vinca, the sweet autumn clematis, some of those. The vinca would be more of a ground cover like vinca minor. And another one we have listed here would be lithorim or purple loosestrifes, one that a lot of people planted, and I probably still do, in the landscape because of its beautiful purple, just like neon, pinky purpley flowers. Bad news, people, this stuff's horrible. And a grass that so many people plant is miscanthus, and that's another one. The miscanthus grasses are also invasive. So these are all like shrubs, perennials, grasses that you can, aside from calorie pear, you can still find at your local garden centers. Every single one of these. Maybe not the lithorim. I haven't seen.
No, you
purple.
You can buy the thing. We'll get to it when we get to lithorim, but they're selling purple loosestrife as what's sterile, and it may be, but we'll get into those details when we talk about it.
Yeah,
but, I think a good one to start with would be burning bush because we've already hit on it a little bit.
Yeah, so burning bush, everyone probably knows what it is. Fiery red in the fall. Besides that, it's just a green shrub. Nothing really that spectacular. It does have a lot of vigor, but
beautiful fall color. Other than that, it's a pretty garbage plant.
Yeah, not a whole lot to it, but some good replacements for that we have kind of discussed and we recommend to people is Viburnum trilobum,
which is American cranberry bush viburnum. Do not get this one confused with European cranberry bush viburnum because they're very similar. But the European is very invasive.
All right, people, let me add this. Get your notepad out and be taking notes on all of this stuff because we're going to go over a lot of plant material here. So
yeah, and that one, that's like you just want to make sure you're getting that from a trusted, plant dealership.
Yeah,
if you will.
Witch hazels. We've talked about witch hazels before, so we won't dive too much into those.
And with burning bush, we're trying to suggest things that have just incredible fall color. And some of these intermediate witch hazels have incredible fall color. So
yeah, in flowers,
way
more showy than the burning bush
they've got
flower.
Bonus things too, but it's at the core of things, everyone wants burning bush for the fall color. So
yeah, Itea or Virginia sweet spire.
Yeah.
Fothergilla, which we've hit on before. Fothergilla, there again, steel blue kind of foliage, flowers early in the spring, and then the fall color on it rivals anything out there. So Fothergilla, Viburnum nudum,
Yeah, possum haw viburnum, commonly called.
Okay.
Just an immaculate, shiny red fall color. Same with chokeberry, just a really nice orangey to red fall color.
Yeah.
So all great replacements for burning bush as far as fall color goes. And most of the things we suggested also have bonus features, like the Itea has beautiful white flowers that the burning bush wouldn't have. So, these are ones to keep in mind to replace your burning bush.
Yeah. One more that we had on that list that is one of my favorites, oak leaf hydrangea.
And that's one, the oak leaf hydrangea is the one on this list that you could probably get the same size out of as the because burning bush can get really big. Some of these ones we mentioned probably aren't going to get quite that big.
Yeah, like Father Gillen, Itea. Yeah. I mean, with time they could get some size to them.
But the oak leaf, if sited properly, it's going to get big quick, and it's got a fantastic fall color, but then bonus giant flowers, great peeling bark.
4-season shrub for sure. So, and guess what? None of what we talked about here is invasive or really aggressive at that. So, booyah.
Not at all.
Sayonara burning bush. So if you got burning bush in your yard, get rid of them damn things and take some of the suggestions we're giving you. So let's stay on the shrub track here and
pick another good one.
Let's just bump right on over here to privet since we're talking about shrubs. Now with privet, some of what we're going to mention with privet could probably be also used in lieu of the burning bush and vice versa. But we're thinking a denser shrub that people will shear into hedge form and all of that stuff and use as screening. So
privet is really common, like in Europe when they do a lot of hedges. Privet's a really common deciduous hedge that they use because it responds really well to shearing. So we were trying to think of good plants that grow really dense, that can still provide a really dense screening and perhaps be sheared and behave the same.
Yeah,
because otherwise, privets is not a very charming plant. There's nothing, it can be hedged. Otherwise, it gets white flowers that are kind of small and these small blue berries, but it's not particularly showy.
Yeah, nothing crazy about it. There's the one that golden Vickery or whatever that's got like some yellowy foliage on it, but whatever. What we're going to mention here is going to give you all of that and then some. So viburnum dentatum, Arrowwood viburnum is a native viburnum. You can get this. There's different cultivars like Blue Muffins one. I think that's a real popular one. Chicago Luster. So these are going to give you that dense form that the privet gives you. It's going to give you way better fall color. It's going to flower for you. They're native, like fantastic plant. Spireas, Bridal Veil Spirea, and you have
Snow Mound.
And
these are the white flowering Spireas with the smaller green leaves.
Yeah.
And I like these for replacement for privet because they respond really well to shearing. I mean, if you shear them for 20 years, eventually they're going to get old and tired. But, if for the short term, they do respond really well to shearing. They have nice white flowers and they're not invasive.
So, Ogon Spirea is another good one too.
With the golden foliage.
Yeah, kind of more of a golden chartreusey colored foliage. Forsythia, my brother and sister-in-law unfortunately have privet that they're using in their back for this exact reason. Screening, but on the side of their house they have Forsythia, and it works really, really well as kind of what we're talking about with the privet is kind of a border shrubby hedgerow between their property and their neighbor's property. So.
And it's very Forsythia can be very lanky, so you can trim it real tight like you would a privet. You can shear it. I don't love the way it looks that way, but if that's what you want to do, it responds really well that way.
Yeah, dude. We
have a whole line of Forsythia that our house came with in our backyard, and it makes a fantastic screen even in the wintertime because there's so many sticks in there that you cannot see through it.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones that you can just butcher the shit out of, and it's going to be like whatever, and then put on like 50 feet of new growth the next year. Yeah. So while we're talking deciduous, we'll hit on Calycanthus real quick, one of our favorites.
Sweet shrub.
Yeah, sweet shrub. So you can get some different cultivars. You can get red flowering, white flowering, and even some different sizes to it. But here's one that's Really dense. It will get some size to it. Like Aphrodite will get huge if you let it. Beautiful red, deep red crimson flowers on that guy. But one of our favorite shrubs. I don't have anything negative to say about calycanthus.
Mm-hmm.
And then some
Evergreens.
Some evergreen alternative to the privet would be like taxus.
Yeah, it's that's appropriate because it's tax day.
Yeah.
So
tell the listeners your little horticulture joke.
Well, there's only two certainties in a gardener's life: death and taxus. So we didn't put that in here for that reason. And taxus is really old fashioned and really overused. But as far as a great plant to hedge and screen, it's tough to beat.
Yep.
So it's on the list.
Yeah, and kind of in the same realm of taxus, we're going to talk cephalotaxis. Very similar looking shrub to our taxus. They're again another great one. It's going to perform very similarly to
it's
taxus.
Very much like a taxus, probably a little slower growing, but the difference is it's the deer don't love it. So maybe a suggestion for that, and it loves deep shade just fine.
Yeah, and it'll do better. Taxus will do fine in shade, but cephalotaxis will do better.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last thing we have on here is inkberry holly, one of our native hollies. This isn't going to get as big as the privet. It's going to stay in a little bit shorter, but inkberry holly is another great one. Very similar to boxwood. This would be a very good. This is one that I always suggest to people is for boxwood, and not because boxwoods are invasive or aggressive, but there's a whole slew of other reasons why you shouldn't be planting boxwood. So this is always my go-to for that. But yeah, it fits right in here with the privets. So.
As far as a lot of the suggestions we're giving aren't exact carbon copies of what we're replacing, but inkberry holly is pretty close to boxwood when you're talking about replace. But that's not what we're talking about in this talk. But it is a great replacement for boxwood too.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that's hitting on some shrubs there.
Let's do the tree.
Let's do the tree.
Get that damn tree out of the way.
Calorie pear, people. So you can't even buy this in the nursery anymore. Nurseries aren't allowed to grow it. They're not allowed to sell it. None of that stuff because this is legit. Like, this tree is a serious problem. Not that barberry and burning bush and any of these others aren't problems, but like this is one that this is bad news, the calorie pear. So if you got calorie pears in your yard, now's the best time of the year to prune them. And the best way to prune them is to get your chainsaw or handsaw out and just right at ground level, cut that sucker off.
Call that a basil prune.
Give it a nice basil prune there. So get rid of the calorie pears and replace them with some of our favorite replacement shrubs.
Right. And I think we talked about this. I don't think there's anything on this list that's going to be an exact one-to-one replacement for the calorie pear. No. Because the calorie pear, it does get covered in white flowers pretty early. It does get a outstanding fall color, and it does have really nice upright form. It has some great attributes. Problem is, it's really prone to breakage. As just like you, it has a weak crotch angles in its.
You don't like my.
You have one weak crotch. It has multiple weak crotches per tree.
You don't like my crotch angle?
Well, that's between you and
the angle of the dangle.
But it's weak. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Hey, I am 42, so
yeah, I'll take it easy on you.
I don't know. Maybe that's a low T thing.
When I say weak crotch, the way the branches grow off of the calorie pears, they grow at such an angle that they push on one another, and they're just very prone to breakage. Yeah. And after a big storm, you can be sure to go down a street lined with calorie pears, and you'll see large branches falling off.
Yep.
So that stinks. But what stinks more is the invasiveness. And if you're in central Ohio or anywhere in Ohio and you're driving down the freeways right now, we talked about this, it's bad.
You know what else really stinks about them? Like, not figuratively, but literally? Are their effing flowers, dude. Those flowers smell like dog shit.
Yeah, they are bad smelling flowers.
Yeah, there's some vulgar things that I've heard people say that smells like, but and then people talk about them smelling like fish. I don't know. They smell bad. Yeah, there's nothing good fragrant about them. So
the more I've seen this tree over the years, the more and more I've hated it, and I just can't stand it. And so we've got some wonderful suggestions Some will be smaller, some will have the flowers or the fall color, but take it away. Why don't you give us some replacements?
All right, serviceberry. So serviceberries are flowering right now, and you can find the serviceberries in a multi-stem form, or you can find them in a single stem form. You're probably, more than likely, if you go to the nursery, you're going to find them in a multi-stem. That's how most places sell them, but if you look hard enough, you can find them in a single stem if you can source those. But yeah, serviceberry in the multi-stem kind of shrubby form, they're going to get probably 15-ish feet tall, maybe a little bit taller, and probably just as wide as they are tall. White flowering in the spring, and then they put on these beautiful red that turn to like blueberry-colored berries that just taste amazing, and the fall color on them is fantastic. So
it is, and it's not going to be as dense as a pear, and it's not going to have the upright form, but there's going to be some aspects of it that are going to be better than the Callery pear.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And native does services for wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, if you don't get to the berries quick enough, like the birds will destroy these things.
If you're a bird person, it's a great tree to have in your yard for bird watching. Red buds. The flowers on a standard red bud, the pinkish purple, are not at all like Callery pear. But if you're talking strictly super early blooms, like right now, and beautiful blooms, red bud can't be beat.
And native.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing about red buds is you can find them in a million different colors, flower colors, white, purple, pink, red. Leaf colors.
We said it before, we're saying it now, and we'll say it again. So it's just a really utilitarian tree.
Yeah. So redbud's a good one. One of my favorite trees that's really starting to pick up steam. We're seeing it in the wholesale side of things. A lot of municipalities are starting to latch onto these guys. And, 3 or 4 years ago, they weren't hard to find. Now it's like pulling teeth to find them. And that is Black Hall Viburnum. What's the name of
Dark
the
Towers?
Yeah, Dark Towers. So Black Hall Viburnum is a native viburnum to us. Similar on where it grows would be like redbud or our native dogwood, Cornus Florida.
It's our native tree form viburnum.
Yeah,
so most of the viburnums are shrubs, but this one grows natively more like a tree.
Yes, but we'll use that loosely because when you see them natively, like, they're not a very, like, it's a pretty tree, but it's kind of scrubby looking. Yeah. And the Dark Towers is nice because it has a very strong central leader, similar to Callery pear, and it's going to give you kind of that pyramidal type shape. So it's just a neater, cleaner version and a little bit denser than what our native Black Hall Viburnum is. But there again, the foliage comes out kind of dark in color. As the tree matures through the season, that dark colored foliage turns to a green. It gets beautiful white flowers on it, and then the fall color on it is just banging. So
yeah, you should see. I mean, if you could see Matt right now, he's gushing.
He
loves this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a really good suggestion, Matt. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Choke cherries. Most commonly, you're going to see choke cherries in the Canada Red or Schubert form, which you won't notice it now, but once it's done blooming, the flowers, the leaves start to turn purple, and they stay purple throughout the summer. That's the cultivar. The straight species is green, but it has beautiful white flowers just starting. I noticed them just starting to bloom, and it's a native. And the fall color on the straight species is a nice orangey yellow. On the purple leaf form, it doesn't get that fall color.
Yeah.
But a nice, upright, more pyramidal form, similar to the Callery pear, just like a looser habit in the crown. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Ostrea virginiana, or the American hop hornbeam. Another one of my favorite trees. So this is going to be a native that's going to give you kind of ish similar form to the, I think it really depends on the cultivar you get. The species is probably going to have a little bit wider, more open crown. Autumn Treasure is one that we're using that's a little bit more pyramidal in shape, a little bit denser crown. Beautiful fall color. the flowers on it aren't your traditional big white or pink flower that hangs off of a tree. But what's cool about it is the fruit that it has during when it's done flowering through the season resembles like a hops plant, like what you would brew beer with.
Yeah, it's a neat little bloom, seed head.
Yeah.
So
and then the bark on it's kind of got this like cat scratchy kind of I wouldn't say exfoliating bark, but kind of this peely kind of brown bark to it. So the bark also is something that, in my opinion, is attractive. So yeah, so it's one of my favorite. I really, really enjoy this tree. So I think it's a great alternative.
As do I. We have them at home.
And just tough as hell too. They're really a tough tree. So yeah.
European hornbeam, which is a pretty basic tree. It's green, doesn't have great fall color, doesn't have showy blooms. But if you're looking just to mimic the form, the very upright pyramidal shape of
dense,
very dense and pyramidal of a pear, that's a really good one for that. Comes in a lot of different cultivars, some tighter than others. But and then I will mention the Autumn Splendor Buckeye.
Thank you.
That's one of my favorites. And you don't often think of buckeyes as real showy ornamental trees, but this cultivar, it's actually a hybrid. It's a triploid. It's got 3 parents of native buckeyes. We're not going to get into the genetics of it, but it's bred for really strong resistance to all the diseases buckeyes get. What are you laughing at?
I love this smile you got on your face talking about this tree.
I like this one. I have noted this tree to be in peak pristine fall color without any fungal leaf spot on November 18th.
Booyah. Yeah, because that's the big downfall. I think the number one gripe people have with the buckeye trees is they look like shit come fall or late summer and they drop all their leaves. True story. Like, I can't agree anymore with you on that, but not this guy.
Yeah, not this guy. Just a fantastic, really dark red fall color. And just with the buckeye, just like the buckeyes in the spring here in May, it has beautiful, beautiful blooms. So,
hey, speaking of buckeyes, did you know that they won the national championship?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did.
All right.
Reigning national champs.
Couldn't remember if you knew that or not. Yeah. So, the last tree that we'll throw out here for a replacement to calorie pear is black tupelo or the Nyssa sylvatica tree. I have a dog named after this tree. So this is another one that's a native. If in the right spot, they'll get some size to them. Here in Central Ohio, though, I haven't seen any that get like massive. Like I've seen some big ones down in Southern Ohio. Even in Northeastern Ohio.
They do fine here. They just seem a little stunted. Yeah. Whereas we've seen some at Dawes and up in Northeast Ohio even that are just, they get to be really big trees.
Yeah. But, really pretty bark on them. They have really nice form, just these kind of horizontal branches on them that when the leaves are off, I think the branches look cool. They just look layered onto the tree. But the fall color on the Nyssa is fantastic.
Top notch.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to beat.
And also, the other thing with them too is there's cultivars out that will give you that same similar kind of tight pyramidal type form. So
yeah, and there's cultivars that leaf out real dark red.
Yeah,
I forget what the name. Wildfire, I think is what it's called. But yeah, great tree, especially if you've got some more space. That's probably the biggest tree on our list. So
yeah, I said Nissa's name and she's just staring at me through the door in there. So she thinks I'm talking about her and I'm just talking about
Big
a
Nis.
tree. So hi, Big Nis. So yeah, she's just looking at me weird. Prince is trying to get in. So okay, so we've hit on the calorie pear, we've hit on barberry, we've hit on burning bush.
We haven't hit on barberry.
Ah shit. Okay, let's hit on barberry then. I'm sorry, I thought we had gone through all of the shrubs. So
yeah, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on barberry, but barberry seems to be pretty beloved by people, and I don't understand why. I've never been attracted to it, even back when I learned it and I wasn't really aware of its invasive properties. I was like, why does anyone want this? I think it's a trash collector.
Okay.
If you ever see like a planting of barberry in a common area and you get under there, it's got thorns, and all it does is pull in like fast food cups and napkins and stuff. And if you look down there, it just pulls that stuff in and it can't get out because of the dents and the thorns. And it's It's no fun to get into. It's no fun to prune.
So unlike you, I would say before I really knew about like how it was as far as being invasive, there were cultivars of it that I didn't really mind. You can get a lot of different sizes. You can get them upright. You can get them small. You can get different foliage colors on them.
That's the big draw to barberry. I know is that it can be bright orange or it can be purple, but that's not a fall color. That's how it is all season long and through the winter. So I mean, I guess I do get the draw on that end,
and I think too, it's a tough plant. It's pretty resilient, So I mean, I get like now, I cringe at the sight of them, but I understand like people's appeal to it. But people stop planting this shrub, and if you have it, get rid of it and replace it with something else. And we're about to give you some good replacements for that.
Yeah, so. and our replacements are plants that typically have a color of the foliage that's not green. That's a different color throughout the summer.
Yeah. So spirea, here's a good one. We talked about spireas as a replacement for, I think, privet.
This is a different type of spirea. We're talking about the ones with the bright gold and red
or chartreuse
foliage.
Yeah, and these are going to get like the pinky flowers on them, and they're going to stay a little bit smaller in stature, like in that 3 foot by 3 foot range. So gold mound's a real popular one.
There's so many. There's like double play gold and
go to the nursery.
There's so many. And what's great about these spireas is you just chop them to the ground every year and they come out with this fresh new growth that's like really colorful. It's a good tough shrub.
Yeah, for sure. 9-bark, Bisocarpus.
And I know I'm more into 9-bark than you are. At home the deer are hammering it, which sucks, but 9-bark's native and they've come out with a ton of cultivars with different leaf colors. There's leaf colors that are bright orange, like Amber Jubilee. There's chartreuse ones, lemon something or other. There's Black Panther. Black Panther is one I really like. I think it's just called Panther, but
Panther. Okay.
And it's got like literally black foliage, so you can get it in an array of colors, and it is so easy to keep pruned and tamed. Some cultivars will get really big and gangly, and some will stay pretty small and tight.
Yeah. So 9-bark. Smoke bush is another one. Traditionally, smoke bush is going to get pretty large on you, but there are some cultivars out there that are going to stay in that probably 3 to 4 foot by 3 to 4 foot range. Velveteeny is one that comes to mind. But your smoke bushes are going to be, again, darker colored foliage. Traditionally, you'll see sometimes like a green foliaged one, but they're just going to get these big plumes of these smoky, pinky colored flowers, and when they're in full bloom, it literally looks like it's just a little puff of smoke.
Yep.
Like pink smoke, but smoke bush is a good one. Again, this is a shrub you can prune, you can let go, however you want to treat it. It's going to respond well to any of it. So, purple glam beautyberry.
Yeah, pearl glam beautyberry.
Pearl glam.
Which is... There's been some talk about the Asian beautyberries being invasive, but I haven't found any literature stating that this one's been a problem. So we're going to say it.
Yeah.
And it's got the beautiful purple berries that you think of with beautyberry, but it's also got purple foliage to go along with them. So
yeah, and I think it's a proven winter introduction. The pearl glam is so,
and it blooms on new wood, so it's one of them that you can cut back.
Yep.
So you can keep it the size you want to.
Yeah. Diravilla is another good one, is a replacement. Diravilla is going to give you that same dark colored foliage. You can get like Kodiak black. Kodiak red, I think, is more of that reddy orange colored foliage.
Kodiak orange.
Kodiak orange. You can get all of these. They do flower yellow, but I mean, the flower to me is like, whatever, it's nothing spectacular. It's there, but it's not like jaw dropping by any means, but it's such a versatile shrub. You can plant this thing in the shade. You can plant it in the full sun. You can plant it in an area where it's going to, the soils may be a little bit wetter. You can plant it in an area where the soils are going to be dry. And this thing's just going to say, whatever.
I think the downfall is the deer again.
Yeah.
We'll just be honest on this podcast, and the downfall is the deer.
Yeah, but I mean...
Yeah, I know. But I just want to make sure they know.
Okay.
I just want to make sure they know.
Why don't you hit this one up, Bob? I know where you're at with this.
So Fothergilla, we talked about that earlier, but the blue shadow Fothergilla, I put this on the list because it has a really nice blue foliage. Think blue spruce, but in the form of a deciduous shrub with big leaves. So Fothergilla, great flowers. This one gets a great fall color, but the point here to replace barberry is that it has a foliage other than just regular green throughout the growing season.
Yeah. Elderberry.
Yeah.
And the cultivars for elderberry, that I'm trying to think. I have the lemony lace. There's a black lace. So there again, you can get like these different colored foliage. It's got a pretty flower on it.
The foliage has a real cut.
Yeah, like a cut leaf to it, real kind of lacy.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like lemony lace. So it's a real lacy cut leaf, kind of yellow foliage. The more sun you give it, the more intense that color is going to be. My lemony lace is in more shade, so it starts out really yellow, and then as the season wears on, it kind of just goes to a green.
And it's a selection from a native, so we love that.
Native, really tough plant. So, and then last but not least,
Weigela. We put it. We talked about it. We put it on the list because it's a plant that's known for foliage color throughout the season, whether it be like a real dark blackish purple or reddish,
or green.
Neither of us really love the plant.
Don't love it, but it's one of those plants like that's just a personal thing. There's nothing bad about the plant. It's just, to me, it's one that I look at and I'm like, whatever.
Kind of reminds me of a honeysuckle with colored foliage.
A little
Maybe
bit,
that's
yeah.
what turns me off about it. But nonetheless,
it does get a really pretty flower.
Nonetheless, it's a very showy plant and it's a good replacement for barberry.
Yeah. So Weigela. And our English ivies, winter creepers, vinca minor, clematis.
We decided we'd lump the ground covers and the vines, but we'd just suggest some vines because we could do a whole episode on the ground cover side of things.
Yeah.
So we're not going to give many of those, but it's really important to know English ivy, winter creeper, which is related to burning bush, vinca. Some might call it what's another word that people call vinca minor?
Oh, God, I don't know. I just refer to it as vinca minor.
Sweet autumn clematis. All these things are so common. I see so many of them, and they're so bad. We find them everywhere.
Everywhere. And this stuff's so hard to get rid of.
And it just moves. It moves around quick. So some vines, and we'll run through the vines really quick. Vining hydrangea, which I know Matt's just recently planted some, and we were looking at yours at the Kaufman House today, and it's really starting to take off.
Yep.
But it's not as aggressive as like an English ivy.
No, it's one of those ones you plant it and you don't be in a rush with it because it's going to take some time before it really wants to take off. But I mean, one of the nicest ones I've seen is at your mother-in-law's up in Perrysburg.
It is,
and it just like
we've mentioned it here before.
God, I love that plant, which is what made me plant the one up here by my house. Is I want to like kind of engulf that corner of the brick house with climbing hydrangea.
You ain't gonna find that one growing in the woods like you are some of these other vines. A native clematis would be great. The sweet autumn clematis that we mentioned is super invasive, and it's one of those ones that I think a lot of people don't realize is super invasive. But when you get into some areas, some wetter areas, boy, oh boy, it's bad.
Yeah.
A native wisteria. I don't know if the non-native ones are a problem, but I recommend the native wisterias.
Yeah. Hops plant is a good one. Not Japanese hops, but like the hops like you would grow to brew beer.
Humulus lupulus.
Yeah, so that would be a good alternative if you can find it. I would imagine it's probably easier to find now, especially with kind of the craft beer boom that's been going on around the United States. There's probably more people selling this plant for that reason. And then the last vine we have is trumpet honeysuckle. So
Linicera sempervirens, which is a native vining honeysuckle. So honeysuckle's got a bad name to it, but if it's a native honeysuckle, that's
we're cool
okay.
with it. Yeah. And then Lithorum or purple loosestrife as a perennial is one that that we hit on, and this is one that loves, like, you really see it around ponds, along rivers and streams. The seed gets into these areas and is carried downstream and is dispersed along banks, and it just takes areas over.
This is the pretty invasive. I'm not gonna lie.
Beautiful.
I'm not gonna lie. It's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's
a beautiful plant for sure.
It is, but it will completely take over a wet area, like completely take it over.
Yeah, we saw. I think you were telling me you may even have pictures of it.
do.
I would love to maybe post that for people to see. But it's kind of like a retention area behind a Menards here in Central Ohio. That's probably like an acre, half acre.
It's like almost the size of a football field.
Yeah, and the entire thing is a blanket of loosestrife. From edge to edge.
It's gorgeous, but it's not allowing anything that does any service to grow in there.
It's the only plant that's in there.
And we mentioned this earlier. They still sell loosestrife in the garden centers.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. They market it as a sterile cultivar.
It ain't sterile.
Well, here's the thing. They sold a bunch of sterile, and I'm doing the air quotes, calorie pears too.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't solve the problem.
Cleveland Select.
And what's going on here is this particular one may not produce seed. It may do that in some situations, but it's still going to produce pollen, which means it's still going to be in the mix, the reproductive mix. So if you have it planted between two populations of the wild stuff, it's just helping that stuff out. So it may not be producing the seed, but it may be helping the other ones produce the seed.
And my whole thing too is like, I'm a Jurassic Park fan, and those dinosaurs weren't supposed to be able to reproduce. And guess what?
Oh, shit.
Nature found a way.
Yeah. And gosh, there's a lot of movies now. I mean, they really got after it.
So we don't want that to happen with the loosestrife.
No, we don't. It could be worse.
But some replacements for it is salvia is a good one. That's going to you're going to find salvia. It's not going to get as tall as loosestrife, but it's still going to give you those vibrant colors and those kind of spike-shaped flowers. Liatris or gay feather's another nice one. Another native that's going to give you more of the height, really pretty foliage, adds beautiful texture, but it's going to give you those spiky colored flowers.
Love me some spike gay feather.
Yeah. Veronicastrum, another native that's going to prefer some wet soil. So you're going to find this in prairie settings, typically in prairies that are going to have lower lying areas where there's going to be a little bit more soil moisture there, even some areas that are going to hold moisture for longer periods of time.
Big plant.
So that would be Veronicastrum would be Culver's root, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Is that Culver's root?
I believe so.
Yeah. And there's different cultivars of that.
Yeah, white is pretty standard.
Yeah,
but
white would be standard, but there are some now that are like
purple
and pink. One of them's like Cupid something or other. I can't remember exactly, but so Veronicastrum, and kind of on the similar sounding to Veronicastrum would just be Veronica.
Yeah, the spiked Veronicas, like the Speedwells.
Yeah. And those they're going to give you a little bit of height in the garden, but they're going to give you those very bright colored. There's so many different spiky, different colored Veronicas out now, and they're breeding of these things to meet different size requirements in the garden, where salvia is pretty traditional on the size that you're going to get for it. You're not going to find much salvia that's going to get higher than 2 feet tall, but with the Veronicas, the Veronicastrums, the Liatris, some of those are going to give you more of that height like you would see from loosestrife. So, yeah. And the last thing on the list is a grass that so many people plant, and that is miscanthus.
And this one, like barberry, to me is just kind of like mind-blowing as to why people like it so much. And I think it just comes down to it's an ornamental grass that grows tall and can provide almost year-round screening. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can think, because otherwise it's not particularly ornamental compared to the 5 or 6 suggestions we're going to give you to replace it, which are just like native grasses or non-invasive grasses that are on the larger side of things.
Yeah.
So
So first with the miscanthus replacement, we're gonna hit on is big blue stem. This is a native grass that's really starting to pick up steam. If you're in the world of gardening and ornamental horticulture and things, and you really study and read about this stuff, you're going to see like big blue stem is really starting to come to the forefront of things. A lot of these plant breeders are starting to do more with the big blue stem. These cultivars, you're going to find them in red foliage, black foliage, just the standard green foliage.
the two colorful ones we've used are Red October, which is the red one, right?
Yep.
And then the
Black
one
Hawks.
with the dark foliage is the Black Hawks.
Yeah, Black Hawks.
Oh, Black Hawks.
It's hawks.
Oh, like the helicopter.
Yes, like Black
Oh,
Hawks.
Black Hawks.
Not the C, but the H.
Oh, Black Hawks.
Black Hawks big blue stem.
And I've used a bunch of Black Hawks.
Yeah, so this is one, though, when you plant it, warm season grass. So you're going to plant it, and in the spring, when you see everything else starting to wake up, this is going to be one that's going to sit dormant a little bit longer. I mean, it is going to put on some growth in the spring, but it's really going to start to do its thing when it seems like everything else is kind of shutting down in that heat of the summer. This is going to like start to really crank it up. So big blue stem, warm season grass, great replacement for miscanthus. Another one would be
We have it on there twice.
we have it on there twice. So we have it on there as the scientific name and the common name, but that would be panicum, which is one of our native grasses. It's switchgrass. This is going to be one that will work in a lot of different conditions. It really prefers kind of moist soil, so you're going to see it do exceptionally well in areas that receive a little bit more moisture. And this is one, oh geez, there's a lot of different cultivars out of it, but
It's also comes in a lot of colors.
and a lot of different colors, but it can be a little aggressive. Not invasive, but aggressive. So this is one, if you have an area where you want like some grass to kind of creep and crawl and do its thing, this is one that you can use some of the different panicums. Not all of them are that I've noticed. I mean, there's some very tight upright cultivars that seem to be behaving themselves pretty
Super
well.
dense too. Real
Yeah.
dense grass.
And the way it moves in the wind is just beautiful. And panicum is a cool season grass. So, so panicum's a good one. You want me to keep going on grasses?
You do love your grasses,
I
so
love
go
my
ahead.
grasses.
Go ahead, Indian grass, man.
Indian grass would be one. Another native kind of prairie grass, warm season. You're going to find this. There's different cultivars of this. Traditionally, it's kind of got this steel blue colored foliage. It's going to get that 5 to 6 foot tall range. Real pretty. I don't even know what color you would consider that. The seed head on it, kind of like a really pretty
Tan, like
tanny wheat beige. I don't know, with
Darker
almost
tan.
like some yellow in it. But so Indian grass is another great one, is an alternative to miscanthus. I think a lot of people do plant miscanthus for that seed head.
Mm-hmm.
So like big blue stem's not going to give you this thick, dense seed head. Panicum's going to give you in mass. The seed head's beautiful.
More
It kinda
delicate.
gives you that delicate, smoky feel. Indian grass, though, is going to give you that more dense seed head. And the last grass that we'll talk about that's going to be similar to the Indian grass as far as all of the characteristics, it's a non-native, but it's not invasive or aggressive, and that's the Carl Forster grass, Calamagrostis, not Brachytracha.
Calamagrostis.
Yeah, we'll just say
Carl Forster.
Calamagrostis, Carl Forster. And it's going to get to that 5 foot tall range, and it's going to give you that dense seed head. And it's a cool season grass, so it's going to really put on a lot of growth early in the season.
Nice tight
Like
clump.
right now, nice tight clumps. Works really well as a screening.
As long as it's got the appropriate amount of sun, it doesn't flop much.
Yeah, really
tidy.
an attractive plant. So those would all be good alternatives to miscanthus.
Yeah,
So,
quit using miscanthus. There's better options out there.
yeah,
Let's do it,
for
people.
sure. So, damn, that was a lot of plants that we just went over. I hope you all took some notes. But yeah, that kind of wraps up our talk, I suppose, on invasive plant species alternatives. So
There's more invasives, and we'll do more episodes and talk about invasives, but that was a real core bunch of invasives that are still available, unfortunately, at the garden center that we need to be not buying and replacing.
Yeah.
So
cool. Dude, we need to find a guest to bring on here.
Yeah, it's guest time. It's guest time and it's walkabout time.
We need to we have a walkabout idea.
Yeah,
hopefully. We need to bring a guest on here. I've got some people locally that we could always bring on here. So
Okay.
yeah, that'd be fun. Sam Costello wanted me to give a shout out to him. So hi, Sam.
Hey, buddy.
That's your shout out. I hope you stuck around for this.
He did.
So
he'll be the first person that listens.
I know he will. He'll text me tonight at 10:00. Just listen to the podcast. So, all right, Pete. So that does it for us for this week. I hope you enjoyed. There's a lot of information that we just covered. If you have any questions on it, feel free to reach out. We would love to chit chat about all of this. Otherwise,
we love you. We'd love to hear from you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Love you harder. +2.
I don't.